Hi, I'm a Canadian cognitive scientist and I'm here to tell you about a new technique for falling asleep. Now, most people, most of the time, have little difficulty falling asleep. Some people, unfortunately, have chronic insomnia. And most of us, several times a year, find it frustratingly difficult to get to sleep. That's why I invented a simple technique called the cognitive shuffle. The idea is to shuffle your thoughts to sleep. But so they can better understand why this simple technique works, let's have a look at what doesn't work. So what keeps people awake? The problem normally is that although they're lying in bed, these people haven't stopped planning or problem solving, trying to decide things, or just worrying about daytime concerns. Often they have racing thoughts about their stressors or concerns. To compound matters, they then get stressed out about not being able to fall asleep because they understand that the next day they're going to suffer the consequences. So they really focus on their sleep and they try hard to fall asleep and they look at the clock. And that basically is a vicious cycle. And we know that this actually delays sleep onset. Now, another problem is that conventional strategies used by insomniacs don't work. Some resort to counting sheep. Well, that doesn't work. Or reviewing the day. Or trying to deliberately avoid thinking about a problem. That actually tends to make that problem become more prominent in your mind. Even basic meditation, which is often recommended for sleep, can interfere with sleep onset because when it's done properly, it's actually meant to promote alertness. So we need a different kind of meditation, if you will. It's helpful to think about why techniques like counting sheep don't work. I mean, how could counting sheep, which is so boring, possibly compete with thinking about your project deadlines and maybe layoffs that are coming down, bills that you need to pay? You might have a marital crisis going on, problems with your children, you might have serious health concerns or be dealing with hot flashes, right? So this is why I designed the cognitive shuffle. Now, the first step here is when you get into bed to make sure that you've accepted your emotional concerns. Okay? So, not to focus on your concerns, but to basically accept that they will be there waiting for you in the morning. And that's okay. You'll be better able to handle them in the morning. Then you engage your mind with a new kind of meditation, which involves vividly imagining diverse items, objects, persons, places, scenes, or actions. Let's have an example. You might picture a teddy bear, and then perhaps a bird, and then maybe a tree, and a staircase, and then perhaps a birthday cake, and then maybe eyeglasses, an airplane. Now, if any of these images stresses you out, for instance, if you have a fear of airplanes, well, you just move on to the next image. You're in a state of mind here where you accept your emotions and you just move on. And the next image might be something like a dolphin. And before you know it, it'll be the next morning and you'll be fast asleep. Now, the problem is, how can you dream up all these varied, unconnected images, right? Unless you have an adequate technique, it might be difficult. So I've devised a couple of ways of doing this technique. One is there's a do-it-yourself method, which I describe on the cognitiveshuffle.com website. So if you go there, it's described in detail. Or you can use the My Sleep Button app. All you need to do with that app is press the Put Me to Sleep button. The app will read you specially chosen words or phrases to imagine, and then you imagine them one at a time until you're fast asleep. Now, this isn't a silver bullet. There's no silver bullet for insomnia. If you have a gallon of coffee before going to bed, you're going to have difficulty falling asleep. So it's a good idea to follow these sleep hygiene rules that you can read about on the internet, even on Wikipedia, to accept your problems as I was suggesting earlier, and to use other validated recommendations. But when you put these things together, the cognitive shuffle puts your mind in a state that's conducive to sleep. Now, why is that? Why use the cognitive shuffle? Well, the first thing is that it interferes with the kind of thinking that keeps you awake. It's counter-insomnolent. So while you're imagining these diverse objects, you won't be thinking about your mortgage and whatever concerns you might have. And the task is actually quite engaging. It brings in your whole brain. It's very visual. So it's productively distracting. And also, researchers have found that as people naturally fall asleep, they often experience visual imagery. They have these little micro dreams. So the cognitive shuffle imitates this state, and that might promote sleep onset. Also, as you use this technique, it will become a conditioned trigger for sleep, meaning that it's associated with sleep, so it'll tend to trigger it. And having a technique that you can rely on will make you more confident that you can fall asleep. And this can decrease your anxiety around sleep, and that can in turn promote sleep onset. Finally, many people find that the cognitive shuffle is fun. Children play a lot, and they tend to sleep well. In fact, neuroscientist Jack Panksepp sees dreams as a vestigial form of play, and Dr. Stuart Brown and others have argued that play has many benefits. Yet adults don't play enough. With the cognitive shuffle, you can make falling asleep a playful process instead of something that's frustratingly elusive. So there you go. Instead of counting sheep, why don't you try shuffling your thoughts to sleep?